Everybody has a story to tell. And one of my great joys as your pastor is listening to your stories, the ups and downs of life and God's faithfulness through it all. One of our church members, Tonda Coutu, has been through a lot with her health and wellness, and we're so thankful for God's faithfulness in her life. She recently wrote down her story in a memoir, and I encourage you to pick it up. You can find it at Amazon.com. Her book is entitled, But I'm Still Here. I think this is a book that would bless you, and perhaps there's somebody that you know who would benefit from reading her story. She was kind enough to take some time to sit down and talk about her experiences, and I'm grateful to share that conversation with you now. Take a listen. Tonda Coutu, thank you so much for making time to meet with me like this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. When you told me that you were going to write down the story of your journey, I was really excited to hear about that. And now it's published in this book entitled, But I Am Still Here. And this is a book that people can find on Amazon.com, right?
Yes.
And I want to encourage folks in our church to pick up a copy so they can read your story. But for now, as an intro to it, let's just jump right into it. You talk about how in 1978, you and your family moved to Salisbury, and about 5 years later, you started noticing some symptoms, right?
Correct.
In your physical health.
Yes. I had, up to that point, I had been fairly healthy. And we moved to Salisbury to be closer to my family that lives in Charlotte. And we were excited for the move. It was a big step for us to move away from our parents and with our two children. But when we got here, life continued. We were doing very well, and we were loving meeting a lot of new people. My husband was starting a new job, and things just started to go kind of off. My next door neighbor and I would run every day, and I had always been a long distance runner, and we started running, and we're talking less than a block, and I would have trouble making the block. And I thought, I'm just out of shape, I attributed to a lot of things. And I would have crazy symptoms. It didn't make sense. So I went to the doctor, and they said, there's nothing wrong. It's just, you're probably out of shape, and giving me all the same scenarios that a lot of them had talked about. And as the years went by, these ailments, I don't know what else to call them, started getting very strange. Well, at this time of my life, I had entered running my own business from home. And I did a lot of work. I would work 16, 18 hours a day, and loved it. We would travel and do art shows, which made me extremely happy. My husband, not so much. But anyway, so I would have these highs and lows of health, and then terrible health, and then health, and then terrible health. And I would go from doctor to doctor, and it had gotten so bad at one time, they kept telling me that I had bone cancer or blood illness. So I had biopsies to find out if I had bone cancer. It was negative. Then they did another biopsy. Of course, it was negative also. But I always had these kind of odd ailments that never made any sense. And one particular month, we were doing a show in Blowing Rock. And I had been working up to get things ready for the show, artwork, and had kind of overdone it. And I thought, I'm just tired. I'll just let my husband and my daughter, who was with us at that time, do the sales, take care of business, and I'll just sit back and talk to the customers. And I didn't get up and really walk around to loosen up. Usually I walk around, talk to the other vendors, meet the new vendors, the older vendors that I'd done for years, and just catch up on socializing. And as we ended the day, I noticed that my legs were feeling extremely heavy. In fact, they felt very numb. I thought, oh, they've gone to sleep. I'm sitting in this hard, uncomfortable chair all day, and I should have gotten up and moved around, stretched. And I got up to move to get to our car or our van to start loading, and I couldn't stand up. My legs had completely gone to sleep, and I just kept, rubbing them, hoping that something would happen, and it didn't get any better. So my husband and my daughter packed up. I was in the car, and we went home. And I just attributed it to overwork. Well, a couple weeks later, things had not improved, and I had seen doctors here, and one of the doctors that I had seen here suggested that I go to Wake Forest to see a doctor he knew up there and see if they could give me a diagnosis. Well, as it happened, things didn't turn out quite that well. I had some, this is all around Christmas period. And it was coming up Christmas. And I was standing in front of my stove baking cookies for Christmas holidays. When I leaned over, it was like someone had shot me with a gun right between the eyes. It knocked me to the floor, and I'm just sitting there wondering what in the world is going on. Why is this pain so intense? And I thought, I've got a brain tumor. I'm thinking all the terrible things that can happen to you. And as things would progress, I went to Wake Forest to see the new doctor. And when I did, they had, by the time I got there, this was like late in the afternoon. And I sat there with no idea of what was going on in the emergency room. And they were going to see me. They checked me over, didn't find anything wrong, sent me home. So now we're into the following year. And I'm starting to have visual problems added to the strange other ailments I was having. Unable to walk, unable to grasp things, see things well. And we had gone home. My father was a severe diabetic, and they had asked me to come home because he was going to have both his legs amputated. And I went home with the stress of having to tell him that that's what was going to have to be done. And the Lord gave me strength to talk to him and said, I'd rather have you with no legs and alive than dead. And so everything went well. And as we're coming home, late at night, dark, I'm driving. And I noticed that the headlights of cars that we're meeting are blinding me. I put on my sunglasses. That didn't help. That just distorted the eyes more. So after about 45 minutes, my husband took over and said, I'll drive. You just sit back and relax. And I said, my eyes are they're not hurting. I'm just having these real auras around my eyes. We go home. That's Sunday night. Monday morning, I get up and I'm blind. I cannot see. I cannot see anything in the room. Everything is kind of milky, opaque. I can't make out anything of any substance. I'm by myself, and my husband's at work. He is in Charlotte working. And fortunately, we had a telephone that he had programmed so that when you mashed certain buttons, it would call family members or whatever. And so I found the phone and I kept hitting the buttons till I got to my daughter, because I knew there was no point in calling my husband because he was working and I didn't want to disturb him. So I call her and she comes over, and I have my doctor programmed into the telephone. So she calls my doctor and tells him what's going on. And he says, bring her over right away. Well, unfortunately, my doctor was on vacation. So I got to see another optometrist. And I go in, and he's very kind, and he's really examining my eyes. And I'm as I'm telling him what's going on and what I'm seeing and not seeing, being able to see. And my stress level was beyond belief. And he didn't really say anything. He would use these tools to look in the back of my eye, and then he'd ask a question, and nothing seemed to bring him to. He'd go, and I'm thinking, oh, this doesn't. His doesn't sound well. And he said, have you ever been diagnosed with MS? And I go, and I'm thinking in my head, he's crazy. I don't have MS. No one in my family has MS. I don't know anything about it, but I don't have MS. And so, again, he says, I need you to see your doctor to verify what I'm seeing. So by this time, my doctor has come back from vacation. I have an appointment to see him. And as soon as I see him, and he goes through all the things you do with your eye to check the back of the eye, he concurred. And he says, I need you to go to Wake Forest and you need to be tested. Well, by this time, I'm still in this numb mood and I'm not in any hurry to get to Wake Forest. And things just progress worse. So we go up to Wake Forest and I go in to see this doctor. And he's a neurologist, and he examines me, and he says, the only way we're going to know if you have MS is if we do a spinal tap on you, and we have to do an MRI. Unfortunately, they couldn't do the spinal tap on me because I'm allergic to shellfish, and they use iodine, so that was a no-no. So at 12 o'clock at night, I'm in the MRI unit, and I'm having an MRI of my brain. I was scared, but I was kind of happy that maybe they were going to find an answer. This is going to have a name. So the next morning at around 6 o'clock, I'm getting ready for breakfast, and the nurse comes in and she said, "Your doctor will be here in just a few moments for the rounds." Well, he comes in, and there's 15 other people with him, and they're all in their white coats. And I'm thinking, am I going to die? Are they going to tell me something really bad? And he says, "Well, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is we know what it is. The bad news is it's an incurable disease." And he looks at me and he goes, "Aren't you going to cry?" And I said, "No." And I said, "The reason is it has a name now. I know what this is. I can fight it." And I thought, it's just MS. It's no big deal. I had no clue as to what and how that would involve the rest of my life. And so I was discharged, sent home, and I went to the library to read up on MS, to educate myself on this disease. And the more I read, the more terrified it was. It was not good news on anything I picked up. There was no medications at the time I was diagnosed. And they were coming out with new products on the market from the pharmaceuticals for patients such as myself, the newly diagnosed. And I went into a denial state. They're wrong. This is not what I have. I'm perfectly healthy. This was just a fluke. It'll go away. Ignore it. I'll be better soon. Well, it didn't get better, and I would have attack after attack. And after these attacks, I'd lose a little more each time, and then have to fight. Go ahead.
Tell me about EMDR and how that entered the picture for you.
Okay. Fast forward about 20 years. I was in a very depressed state. I had seen a doctor after doctor, clinic after clinic, and had lost confidence in any physician ever being able to help me. I was diagnosed with pain pills, injections, IV bags, you name it. I went through it. And so the last doctor that I saw said, when I go to his office, he's getting ready to do some manipulation and massage on me. And when he walks by me, his coat just touches my face. Well, I have trigeminal, which is a side effect of MS, trigeminal neuralgia, which is called the suicide disease. And he goes, "What did I do?" And I said, "You touched my face with your jacket." And it just excites this nerve, and it's like there is no way to describe the intense pain that it has. And that's why it's called the suicide disease, because most people, after a few years, can't live with it and commit suicide. And I thought, oh, this is really good news. So he says, "I can't help you, but I know someone who can." And he gave me her card, and I put it in my pocket and basically said, "I'm not going to call not one more person. I'm going to have to live with this for the rest of my life." I was very angry, very deflated, had no confidence in myself at that time. And of course, my husband and family were having to endure all these weird things. You'd see me, I'd have scarves around my face, coats up around my face so that no one could kiss me, hug me. I couldn't brush my teeth. Simple grooming things were painful. And so one day, my husband, I think, was just fed up with my bad mood, shall we say. And he said, "What have you got to lose? Call this physician and see if you can get an appointment to see her." Well, this is in October of 1994. And so I go in and I go into the hallway, and there's all these people sitting in this lounge lobby area, waiting to see the physician. And I'm just sitting there with my arms crossed in a negative mood. I'm going, this is a waste of time. I don't know why I'm here. This is not going to work. And this charming lady comes out, introduces herself, and takes me back to her office. And she says, "I want you to tell me, just like I'm telling you, what's been going on." And she would ask me a question, and I was very rude, to say the least. I would say, yes, no, very snippety. And her demeanor is very calming. She has this calming, soothing voice and demeanor. And she says, "Well, I want you to think about what we're telling me. And we're going to try different ways of getting to your pain because you have PTSD." And then when she said that, I thought, I have come off the rails. She's nuts, and I know I'm crazy now. And she says, "Let me try different things in her therapy box to try to help me." So she says, "Let me try EMDR." Well, I had no idea what it was, what it meant. And she pulls out this bar that has a little twinkling light, like Christmas lights. And when she's talking, it's flashing from left to right, left to right, left to right. No pills involved, no shots involved, just paying attention to the lights. I'm
And
not
what does
looking at
EMDR stand for?
it. Means eye movement desensitization resonance. And what it is doing is transferring your pain from one side of your brain to the other. Well, I didn't have pain on my left side. I had all my pain was on my right side, like you'd sliced my face down the middle. So as she's talking to me and asking me questions, the lights are flashing one, left to right. And we're into the session I'd say about 40 minutes when I notice something's happening. And I can't put my finger on it, but something's happening. And I'm going, that feels very weird. It's almost like you're getting Novocaine in the face. Like if you've ever had a toothache, right? And the Novocaine is starting to go away. And my comment to her was, it feels as if tiny tears or raindrops are falling on my face. She didn't say anything. She just kept asking me questions, getting me comfortable with the left to right, left to right. And at the end of the session, we go out. She walks me out to the desk. and my husband is standing ready to pay the debt. And I've got the coat, my scarf, but I don't have it around my face. And I go up to the counter and he's standing there and I said, touch my face. And he looks at me and he goes, are you sure? I said, touch my face. And he had not been able to touch the right side of my face for almost 11 years. It lasted for about an hour, which gave me relief for about an hour. And she said, I want to see you every day for the next 2 weeks. We're going to have a session and get you used to this type of treatment. First 2 weeks, it would go from 1 hour to 2 hours, then to 3 hours, and to 4 hours was the longest ever held. And I was without pain. The first time in almost 30 years. No pain, which was phenomenal. But it wouldn't hold. And so the negative Nelly in me said, this is not working. It's just not holding. And I want it all. I want to be healed. I want to be healed. And I had prayed to God and cussed to God and cursed him. Why have you done this to me? What did I do to deserve this? And little did I know, he was showing me a lesson that I never thought of.
So what's been that lesson for you?
That lesson is to trust in the Lord. He will come through. It took me a long time to realize he had given me signs all along the way. But I was not willing at that point to listen to him until I met this therapist. And she showed me how to deal with my anger, my frustrations. We talked about things that I had lived through and gone through, and she's always listened with, she says, you know the answers. I'm just listening. I'm the sounding board for you to talk. And about 4 years ago, after COVID, I would have episodes. And what I call her, she's my tune-up doctor. So I go in for tune-ups every so often when I get a little bit of this stuff starts to kind of ease back. And she has been my lifesaver. And she wanted me to tell this story. And I told her, I said, I can't write this story. There's a lot of it I have never said to anyone except her and one friend and my sister. They're the only ones that ever knew this whole story. I had come close to suicide. And had just lost hope. And she gave me the hope to carry on. But after about 4 years of her, please write this book. Please write this book. You need to write this down in a journal.
And now you've written it down.
Now I've written it down.
All right. So how did you come up with this title, But I'm Still Here?
The title was in my head, and this was the sign. I said, Lord, if you want me to write this book, then give me a sign. And that's what kept coming up in my head. But I'm still here. I am still here. Not me. He is. He is still here with me. And I was very insistent. They wanted to change the name. I said, no, this is the way it's got to be. And as fate should have it, or the Lord is guiding me, whenever I get into a problem, I said, okay, it's in your hands. I'm going to let this happen. And I wrote the book. I sent it off. And the next day I got publishing request for my book. It was just amazing. It's been a snowball type of thing, and I'm learning as I'm going. But it has been a different experience than I have ever endured in anything else.
Well, congratulations on getting that published. I know it's a work of love, and it's for the sake of people to read it who could benefit from your story and the witness of God's faithfulness.
Yes,
So again, I want to encourage everybody in the congregation, go to Amazon.com, and they may have a family member, friend who would benefit from reading this. And I want to encourage people to find you on a Sunday morning. In case you're wondering, you can find Tonda and
at the
her
back.
husband Danny about 4 rows from the back on the pulpit side, on the north side of the sanctuary. And you can find Tonda and ask her to sign your copy of the book, right?
Right.
Well, listen, I've taken up a lot of your time. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I know we could go on, and so many different facets of this story are worth hearing. And again, we're just so thankful for your faithfulness through it all.
Well, I appreciate you giving this opportunity to get this out. I hope it will touch someone. I hope it will help someone who's gone through the darks and come out, or still waiting to find the answer. It's out there. You just have to be willing to step back and give it to someone else. And I gave it to the Lord. I said, He has been my rock, and my husband has been my rock. And I don't think I would have come through this if I didn't believe. And I guess that's the reason I'm where I'm at right now. I'm happy. I'm painting. I'm writing. Perhaps maybe another book. I don't know. But life is enjoyable for me now.
Wonderful. And the Lord continues to say to you, but I'm still here.
Yes.
Tonda, thank you. God bless you.
God bless you.